Fairness is the foundation of democracy. I mean, if there is no fairness, nobody's going to trust you.
The history of the board is really interesting. It started primarily in 2006. I think things reached a boiling point.
We did have an incident occur with a woman named Alva Scott who had been arrested at the Columbia Mall trying to retrieve her son from what had been a big brawl, a big fight of some juveniles, some kids had a fight, and the police were called. As she was trying to retrieve her son, she was tackled and arrested. Those charges were later dropped against her, so that makes me tend to want to believe what she said about what happened.
There was a lot of tension in Columbia regarding the police and the use of excessive force. But not only that, there was a situation where nothing was really being done about it. And so in 2006, the citizens marched down to the city council, and we presented a proposed ordinance for a police review board. And at that time, I think the city manager wasn't for it and said it's not going to happen. The citizens kept fighting for it. A group called Minority Men's Network, they got involved. They submitted a resolution during this time to the city council saying, hey, we want a review board.
Like Minority Men's Network, we actually did two things. First, we met with Mayor Hyman to say, hey, here's what we're going to do. We're going to come to city council. And I think the reason for doing that was Minority Men's Network really hadn't been that involved in advocacy a lot. So we thought, okay, one thing we can do, go to the mayor and say, here's what we intend on doing. So we wrote a letter to the city council to be in their meeting packet. We wrote a letter for that, kind of outlining our position. And then at the city council meeting, when they were going to have the hearing on the proposed resolution, I spoke, I think David spoke, I think Ms. Ratliff spoke, but I'm not sure. We all spoke at that meeting. And I think that the idea was, again, to really drive home, but hey, here's what citizens think, here's how they feel about the issue, and here's why what the police are saying really isn't responsible. And I think what we try to get across, I think what all of us try to say is, hey, Columbia talks about who it is as a city a lot, and they talk about who the city is, but they don't always talk about the things that make it different for black residents in the city, and that's what we really wanted to get across.
And so what the city council did is say, well, okay, we're going to appoint a commission to determine if we need one. And so they appointed this commission around 2006, 2007. I was also on that commission, and so we spent a year and a half looking at this issue. And there was a bipartisan commission. They would bring in the police. They brought in all the community groups. They would talk to other review boards. They would talk about things that had happened in Columbia. And so they voted unanimously, I believe, that they needed a review board.
We felt like one of our major roles was publicity, community outreach, letting people know we were there for them, explaining that we were an appellate board only. A lot of time went to training, which we welcomed, but was very time consuming. Some of us did ride-alongs with police patrol officers at the beginning. So there was a lot of just establishing ourselves in the community, but we also found ourselves embroiled in several cases pretty quickly.
Our duties are to be an appellate board. The internal affairs of the police department looks at complaints either by citizens or by police officers. Then they have their own internal investigation and they come up with a decision. If either the officer or the civilian is unhappy with that decision, they are then able to appeal it to our board. We are then an outside investigatory committee, essentially, that is unbiased. We are an independent review board. So we look at it from a fresh lens. We look at all of the evidence, and from there we're able to make a decision on whether or not we believe that the police department's decision was the correct decision. We then send our statement and our decision back to the police department.
Anytime that you have another set of eyes looking at the activities of any organization, not just the police department, but any organization, I think that leads to public trust, because it says, hey, there's somebody else taking a look at what you're doing. And that's what civilian oversight of law enforcement does. It says there's another set of eyes to take a look at what you're doing.
I think review is important for two reasons. I think all organizations need to be accountable and they need to be transparent. And that's the purpose of the board. If you look at the model for the city, the citizens are at the top and the police are down below. I mean, the police are not in control. It's the citizens. And so any agency, I don't care what it is, everyone needs to be monitored and held accountable. And it's not appropriate to have an organization running unchecked.
Police officers have a lot of authority, and I don't think it's asking too much that a civilian board asks them to be accountable. And I think that's what the public wants as well. And we were never, ever asking that a police officer put himself in danger or herself in danger. We're always concerned about their welfare as well as the welfare of the public. So I think over the past 10 years, that's what the board's done. It's just tried to be as fair and as compassionate and thoughtful as it could be. I think the board is a uniquely well-educated resource that should be used by the city council to inform decisions that have to do with the police. And I think the public should be as aware as possible of the board's existence and what they do, and to try to take advantage of them if they need to.